Hi everybody, today is March 23rd and we're going to talk about Bitcoin's price. Bitcoin recently has been in a bit of a slump, and yesterday we had quite a big plunge, about almost 6%, but we are starting to attempt to bottom and make a recovery. So the question is, are we going to continue down more, or can we find the bottom and push higher into new all-time highs? Now before we continue with this analysis, please read this disclaimer, and you can pause this video to read it. Okay, so Bitcoin, let's actually look at the daily, see what happened in the last 24 hours, right? So yesterday, before the market closed the day, Bitcoin just had this huge plunge, and it just kept coming down, and finally we found a bottom, but it seems like we're breaking down again. So the question is, are we going to be able to hold this level, or are we going to continue down? So to answer that question, let's look at the daily chart again. So yesterday I talked about how I think that the pattern we're seeing right now seems to be possibly a repeat of this pattern, which is basically going up, reach resistance of the Fibonacci channel, come down, find support, and then come up, reach resistance again, consolidate, push down like a bear market, or a bear trap, and then push up higher. So it seems like we're in the bear trap zone. So up, down, find support on the Fibonacci support of the channel, up, resistance at the top of the Fibonacci channel, consolidate, and bear trap before moving higher. So that's what I'm looking for personally. And I also talked yesterday about how I'm looking for the daily 50 simple moving average line. As the next couple sessions progress, this line will move up. I'm looking to see the price perhaps pull down a little bit more, or at least find support and then bounce out higher. And that to me is what I'm looking for the next 1 to 2 weeks. Overall, the indicators are still looking quite bearish. Of course, we are still in a bearish divergence, right? The indicators are still going down, and the MACD histogram is printing more bigger red candles, meaning that the momentum is heavily to the sellers right now. And even as the MACD is going down, the price going up, so that's a bearish divergence. And we also saw something in the RSI in the past couple of months. So we saw the RSI come down. Meanwhile, the price is going up, and that's been putting a lot of downward pressure on the price as well. And really another thing is just the dollar rising, right? The dollar rising, putting downward pressure on Bitcoin and also on stocks. So the question is, are we going to see another repeat of 2018, right? Because in 2018, when the dollar ripped higher, we saw Bitcoin was in a bear market, right? We all know what Bitcoin was in 2018. Basically just flat, and then just kept going down lower. And every time Bitcoin was in what I call a mega bull rally in 2017, our most recent example, we saw the dollar come down, basically just throughout the whole year, just come down. And on the opposite hand, we saw Bitcoin go up, just this massive rally. So the question is, if this thing goes up like it did in 2018, does that mean this is going to be the end of the rally for Bitcoin? Are we going to come down? And also, there's something called a pi cycle top indicator, which is right about to cross, and it's been very accurate. We're going to talk about this later, but there's a lot to think about in terms of whether this can continue higher or if we're going to go lower. But before we talk about that, let's look at the 4-hour chart. Of course, we've been slumping. Yesterday I talked about how we were in sort of a descending triangle over here, and if the price does break below this support level, this will likely go lower. However, if you look at the indicator, the oscillators, they are oversold right now. So this could give a little bit of fuel to the upside and help us defend this level around 54,000. And if you look at the moving average here, the 4-hour 200 simple moving average over here, we had a nice bounce, rejected off this level. So this could be a nice support level if we can turn this into an inverse head and shoulders in a shorter term time frame, right? See the price come up, push down, and then move up higher. I think that would be very bullish for the overall price structure. So that's what I'm looking for in the short term. I still think that we're following, like I said, something like this, where this could end up being a bear trap as we move higher. So now let's look at the pi cycle. So pi cycle top has called the top over the last 10 years, right? 2017, within 3 days of crossing, we had the top. 2013, December, within 3 days of crossing, top. And earlier in April of 2013, within 3 days, we fell down. Now, a lot of people are talking about how, like, even if this does come down after this cross, we could be something like, the price action could be following something kind of like 2013, where we had this cross, came down, but we weren't done for the year. We went up even more at the end of the year. So it's possible, but we're gonna have to wait and see. But this thing is getting very close to crossing, and I'll definitely keep you guys updated based on what's happening. But just to answer this question, is the pi cycle top going to necessarily call the top of the market? Is this over for Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin not going to go up anymore? Are we just going to enter a bear market like we did when it crossed over the last 10 years? And the answer is not necessarily. Why? Because this is just one indicator, right? You can't just rely on one indicator. You have to look at a confluence of different indicators. The more indicators are telling you that the top is in, or that the price is oversold, or sorry, overbought, the more stronger a prediction is. So let's look at the other indicators, right? The 2-year multiplier. In the last, when the pi cycle top crossed these 3 times in the past, we were overbought. We were over this red line, and we were in this red shaded area. We're not even above the red line yet, right? Now here, the Puel, I don't know how to pronounce Puel multiple is in the past it was above in this overbought red shaded area. We're not even in that area yet, so this is not overbought. All right, the golden ratio multiplier, in the past we would touch the dotted line. We're not even nowhere near the dotted line yet. We're still trending this purple line. Now the z-score, right? In the past we saw these huge spikes, at least like just completely not just entering, breaking this red shaded area, but going beyond that, right? Completely overbought. We haven't even entered this red area yet. So what does that mean? It means that get rid of this. It means that just because this is about to cross doesn't mean that this is going to call the top. Doesn't mean that we're just going to crash, right? We want to see a confluence of different indicators coming together, telling us that the market top is likely in. So let's look at some other charts. Futures basically just following Bitcoin. Nothing really interesting happening lately. Lately, all the gaps have been filled. So here, gap here, gap here, gap here filled. Obviously, we have a lot of other gaps, but these are older gaps, so don't necessarily have to be filled. The natural volatility will come swinging around. But there's some news that we'll discuss later in this video that suggests that Bitcoin might actually go higher. But let's continue with different charts. So GBTC is still at a negative premium. It's been at a negative premium for a while now. And I think this is a record. I don't think it's ever been at such a negative premium for so long. So we talked yesterday about how this basically means that it's under tracking Bitcoin, meaning that Bitcoin is more valuable than GBTC, and that you're actually getting a worse value buying GBTC right now. I mean that if you buy GBTC now and Bitcoin goes higher, that you could possibly get a good value, because what happens is if Bitcoin continues higher and this goes higher, we get sort of a leverage effect from negative to positive premium. However, you're getting a worse deal if you're holding GBTC, because this is under tracking Bitcoin, meaning that it's less valuable than the underlying, which is Bitcoin. So for everybody holding GBTC now, especially if you bought above this level, you're not in the best place. But if you do think that Bitcoin is going to go higher, then it'd be best to just hold on and perhaps buy this bottom because, or buy the dip, because GBTC generally doesn't stay negative for very long, right? Traditionally, it'll trade at a premium. So if you do buy it here and it does go, if Bitcoin does go up to new all-time highs again, this will likely go into positive or trade at a premium again, and you'll get sort of a leveraged effect. Now, right now in Turkey, there's a currency crisis. Just the value of their currency is being devalued, and a lot of that had to do with the head of the central bank being basically fired, and that caused the lira to crash over the last 48 hours. So we can see a chart right here. Compared to the dollar, the lira has been down. Let's see, nearly 10% now. Yesterday it crashed all the way down, over 14%, pulled back, probably a dead cat bounce, right? This likely will continue lower. So hopefully things get sorted out over there, especially the citizens. You know, they didn't do anything. They're just living there, trying to survive, trying to live their lives, and the whole government is just losing control of the currency, which is not good. But at the same time, this is really pushing Bitcoin, or giving more of a case for why we want to have a world sort of currency rather than just currencies that are like sovereign, because something like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, can't be manipulated, right? This has a fixed supply, and so you're seeing people in Turkey trade Bitcoin for $100,000 in peer-to-peer markets, right? And this is something I'm expecting to see more of as this decade goes on. Like countries all the world devaluing, debasing their own currencies, right? And people, I think, they want an alternative. They want an alternative currency that will hold its value, that won't go down in value as things get more expensive, because that's just robbing them of purchasing power and making their lives harder. So I'm expecting more people to use Bitcoin as an alternative to their own country's fiat currency, which can be manipulated and devalued. And there's nothing the citizens can do about that. And that's very sad. It's very sad for people living in Turkey right now. But thankfully, things like Bitcoin exist, and hopefully more people will learn more about Bitcoin and how that could protect their wealth and all the money that they work so hard to accumulate in their life. So in other news, Bitcoin transfer worth $806 million might reveal big institutional purchase. So on Coinbase, people found out that somebody recently perhaps purchased, or not perhaps, I mean perhaps a big institution has purchased a large amount of Bitcoin. And we've been seeing this trend in institutions basically buying Bitcoin and holding it on their balance sheet, right? The most famous one was obviously MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy's, their stock, obviously with Bitcoin coming down, it's been affected, but when they announced their purchase, they've seen a huge rise in the stock price. Even up to this level, it's still 375% despite this drawdown recently. But I mean, everything Bitcoin related is going down as the price starts to stall a little bit. But it's just interesting to speculate. Of course, Tesla is the most famous company who recently added Bitcoin to their balance sheet. So yeah, I think this is really just, it's two things. First, we might be starting to see a trend of more companies starting to add Bitcoin to their balance sheets because they're seeing the dollar being devalued through just endless stimulus and monetary printing. They want to protect their balance sheets because yes, you need to have some cash on reserve if you're a business for unseen emergency events or just to invest, right? But at the same time, just keeping your money on your balance sheet in cash instead of investing it, you're just watching it basically get eaten away by inflation. And I think that a lot of companies, they want to see more return on their capital, or at least protect their capital at the very least. So I think we're going to start to see more of a trend. I think like MicroStrategy was just the beginning, but Tesla definitely is the big sort of like leader, and I think a lot of people will be following in Tesla's footsteps over the next several years as Bitcoin becomes more legitimized in the eyes of the public. Obviously, to investors like us, we love Bitcoin. We know about Bitcoin and its potential, but for a lot of like older like CEOs and stuff like that, older companies, they this is still a new risk. To them, it's a risky asset. For us, we know this is the future of currency. So, last article I want to go over today is the institutional managers hold a record 57 billion worth of crypto. So it's just more. We're starting to see more people wanting to invest in Bitcoin, especially people on Wall Street, right? Institutions, and it's just ridiculous how right now there's no ETF that's legal in the U.S. But we do have Grayscale, which is technically a trust. But I mean, a lot of people are. It just shows like there's so many people who are investing in GBTC that we should have an ETF approved, right? Like it just shows that people want to be invested in cryptocurrencies and they're interested in investing in cryptocurrencies. But yeah, so hopefully an ETF will be approved in the future, in the near future. Yes, so more Bitcoin predictions, 150, 300,000. That's actually the prediction I gave yesterday. I do think Bitcoin has a chance. I'll probably make a video about this in the future. I do think Bitcoin may spike the ultimate high of this rally around 400 to 450,000, but I'll make a video more detail on that later. Yeah, so basically, to summarize, I do think that the next couple of days is going to be very interesting, especially with the Pi cycle top indicator crossing. And oh, by the way, this Pi cycle top indicator was developed after the 2017 bull market. So we don't know if this thing can predict the future, but we're going to have to see how the price action is when this thing does cross. Are people going to look at this and say, oh, we need to sell and then this is the top? Or is this just going to be just one indicator that had a false positive and we continue higher? Personally, I think it's the latter. I think that Bitcoin is consolidating. It's a healthy consolidation because even though we've been slumping for a while, we are still above the moving averages, right? We're still above the moving averages. We're trending between this Fibonacci level. We're finding support, right? Higher highs, higher lows, higher lows, and higher highs. And that's healthy. That's what we want to see, right? I know that people want to see this thing just go straight up every day, but Bitcoin is going to have times where it consolidates, right? Either through price, where it comes down hard and fast, or through time, where it just moves sideways for a while. And either way, these are opportunities to buy the dips, right? Buy these consolidation phases before it rips higher, right? Don't chase these things when it's just ripping higher. Don't FOMO in, because especially with leverage, like this is one of the reasons why the Bitcoin markets will come down so hard. Is you have all these leverage traders FOMOing at the last moment when they should be buying in when nobody wants to buy. When there's blood on the streets, like that's when you want to buy, right? So, anyways, just to summarize, I don't think the Pi cycle top necessarily determines that this is the top, and then we're just gonna enter a bear market or something like that. And also, summarize again, I do think we're seeing a larger play out of something like this, and we are basically at this level, the bear trap, what I like to call the bear trap zone over here, where we're seeing a bit of weakness in the price, but I think the bulls will come back, fight, and push the price harder. Maybe consolidate around this Fibonacci level before pushing higher into 70,000 and up and beyond. So overall, I'm feeling optimistic towards Bitcoin's price and the Bitcoin future for the rest of this year. So, anyways, if you found this video useful, informative, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for updates. And thank you for watching, and I appreciate your support.